Alex Salmond has branded the SNP-led Scottish Government headed by Nicola Sturgeon as a disgrace following a Scottish parliamentary inquiry concerning him. Mr. Salmond made the comments in a submission to the Holyrood inquiry, which is investigating the handling of harassment complaints against the former First Minister. The Scottish Government's Handling of Harassment Complaints Committee was set up after the Court of Session in Edinburgh ruled the Scottish Government's handling of complaints against the former First Minister to be unlawful in a judicial review. This resulted in a £512,250 in legal costs being paid out to Mr. Salmond's lawyers. Mr. Salmond was also separately cleared in March of several sexual offence allegations made against him in court. In the submission published today, Mr. Salmond said he was deeply concerned about launching judicial review proceedings given what it might mean for both the First Minister and the SNP. But he said he was left with no choice because of the unlawful behaviour of the Scottish Government and only after every other avenue had been exhausted. The former Scottish First Minister also claimed the cost to the taxpayer because of the government's incompetence in dealing with him would likely be upward of £750,000, instead of £512,250. The former SNP leader criticised the Scottish Government's process of dealing with the harassment complaints made against him. 2 female staff members initially made formal complaints to the Scottish Government in January 2018 about Alex Salmond's conduct, dating back to when he was First Minister in December 2013. Commenting, he said, "At an early stage it was clear to me and to my legal advisors that the process was defective in a number of ways and that its application was suspect. In particular, I had never even heard of such a procedure applying to former ministers and there was no parliamentary or public record of it ever being implemented." Mr. Salmond also claimed that he offered the Scottish Government conciliation, mediation and then arbitration when he was informed of the harassment complaints against him by civil servants. But he added, "All such attempts at swift and confidential resolution of the legal issues without the expense and confrontation of court proceedings were rejected without consulting the complainers. In case of mediation without initially consulting the complainers and in the case of arbitration without consulting the complainers at all." Mr. Salmond also said he is now aware that Permanent Secretary to the Scottish Government Leslie Evans had dealings with both women who complained about him. Ms. Evans is the Scottish Government's most senior civil servant and is partly responsible for dealing with complaints against senior ministers. The former SNP leader said, "I am now aware from documents recently obtained by this committee that the Permanent Secretary met one complainer and phoned the other in mid-process before contacting me on the 7th of March 2018. I was astonished when I discovered this. There is nothing in the procedure which allows for this." He claimed this was behaviour incompatible with the role of an impartial decision maker and was also further evidence of bias against me. Mr. Salmond said, "The behaviour of the government was, in my view, a disgrace. But actions have consequences. Accountability is at the heart of the Scottish Parliament. It comes as the Scottish Conservatives say they will trigger a vote on whether Nicola Sturgeon misled Parliament if SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell does not reappear at a Holyrood committee." The Tories demanded SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell return to give more evidence at the Scottish Parliament Harassment Complaints Committee. He last appeared at the committee in December, but opposition parties have since raised questions about the evidence he gave. On Tuesday, the Tories said they would submit a motion for party business that Ms. Sturgeon misled the Parliament when she promised the SNP would cooperate fully with the inquiry. In response, a Scottish Government spokesman said, "The points raised in this submission have been addressed previously. The First Minister looks forward to answering any further questions from the committee when she appears in person in due course."